want you to get wet, but I don't want you to go either. I've never been on TV like the senator has, and only cameras I ever see wanted to put a number under my face, so I'd stay away from it. Thank you very much. I'm very, very happy to be here with all of you today. This is a great union. It's been the passion of my life. I think you all know that. I think you all know where I'm coming from, and I do appreciate and thank all of you for being here today. It is really historic, an historic strike that occurred 80 years ago in this great state. And I think we need to commemorate it. I think we need to honor those people. But let me give you just a little bit of a background of myself, and you'll see my passion for this great union, this great Teamsters union. I'm a third-generation Teamster. My grandfather was a Teamster, and my father was a Teamster. A number of my uncles were Teamsters. And lo and behold, when I graduated from high school in 1959, in June of 1959, I became a Teamster member, and I've been one ever since. It's 53 years until the day I retired. And I love this great union for everything it's done for me and for workers across this country. Ironic, I grew up here, a block and a half that way, Marshall and 7th Avenue. I was on 7th Avenue, lived with my grandparents and my mother and father, who lived upstairs because it was a duplex. And my grandparents were from Poland. My grandmother couldn't speak good English, but my grandfather did, and that's why he became a Teamster. But it's ironic that I'm here today. It's like going back to where I started. And I lived there till I was 14 years old, and then we moved over to North Minneapolis. And those generations of Teamsters taught me a lot. They really formed my feelings about what I'm doing and where I'm going in those early years. And my uncle, Tom Stolsky, he was quite a guy. He did whatever needed to be done to stand for the fight. Whenever there was a war, he was always in the front line. He taught me a lot about this great union, and I happened to meet Jimmy Hoffa, his dad, when I was 19 years old at a hotel in Minnesota when he came to Minneapolis, which was a hell of a thing in my life, and it really got me going, and it really made me think about what I wanted to do. But I drove a truck for a lot of years, 17 years, actually 19 years. I was on the dock for 2. They made me do that, and then I did 17 years in the truck. Right over here, Sterling Carter's Trucking Company off of Plymouth Avenue. And it's like right next door, blocking. There's beautiful homes over there now. But that was just an old trucking warehouse, so it wasn't so pretty, but it served very nice. And I got my blessing there, I got my seniority there, and I worked for them until January of in 1977. I ran for recording secretary and business agent, because we have elected business agents in Local 544. Is that noisy out there? Kind of bad. Not bad. It's okay. And I was elected, and I thought, wow, here I go. So January 1, 1978, I was elected to Local 544, which really is the successor local to 574, and we'll get into that a little bit later. And I was able to do that until 1983, when I became the General Secretary Treasurer, the Secretary Treasurer, and the Principal Officer of Teamsters Local 544, and took over for Mr. Chuck Madden, who was a great leader too. And he taught me a great deal in the 5 years that I worked for him. And I was excited about that. And in January of 1984, not even a year later, I was elected as trustee to the Joint Council 32 and served on that Joint Council in all positions until I became president of the Joint Council in 1999. I had the good fortune to run for international office of this great union. And I ran with Jim Hoffa Jr. in 1996, and many of you know how that turned out. Somebody tried to steal the election, we caught him. We had another election, and Jim and I won. And in in 1998, late 1998, we won the rerun election, and March 21st of 1999, Jim and I took office in this great union, and I stayed there until March 21st of 2012, when after 53 years as a Teamster, I retired. And I enjoyed that immensely as well. Some people ask me, well, how do you like retirement? Well, let's see. I retired 2 years, 4 months, 17 days, and about 30 minutes ago. So I feel pretty damn good. The first year was tough, but believe me, the wait is worthwhile, and I'm really truly glad that I was able to retire and spend all this valuable time with my family, my daughters and my grandkids. It's been a pleasure for me, and it's been something that I truly have enjoyed. But we're here today to honor the great people of the 1934 Teamster strike, which was the catalyst for the labor movement moving forward in this country. We had spent 5 years trying to recover from the 1929 crash, and people were still hungry and hard and looking for work. And the produce section, which is located, and we visited, and some of you will visit it today, is where it all began with terms of the 1934 Teamsters strike. And it was fantastic. It was in the sense that the training, what behind it. We had Local 574 was led by the Dunn brothers, and they were tremendous organizers, along with Farrell Dobbs, who organized all across the Midwest for the Teamsters Union and brought many players into this great union. He used the secondary boycott so effective in organizing that they passed a law outlawing it because we were so effective. But we learned a lot. And these guys, these members, these brothers and sisters in 1934 decided it was time to take on the employers because whatever they said didn't mean nothing. If the employer didn't like what they said, they might have worked them a half a day, or they might not have worked them at all. They didn't get breaks. They didn't know what a break was. They didn't know what a lunch break was. They could work 2 hours or 14 hours. And they said they had enough. They had enough of this going on. And they got together with the Dunn brothers, with Farrell Dobbs and others. There were many others that were a part of that, and decided it was time to take action. And of course, the Dunn brothers, they were such great organizers. They were Trotskyite communists. That was a big balloon not in their favor, and it would later play out in some things that should never have happened, but they did. But they were fantastic organizers, and they knew what they needed to do. And they went in with just, Local 574 was not a very big local. They went in with just a few members. They picketed and they fought, and all of a sudden, members started joining that local from across the Twin City area. Other members went out on strike. So that at a point between February and July of 1934, there were over 10,000 new members in Local 574, and they tell me there was that 35,000 people at any given time that patrolled that whole area where you're going to see down on 3rd Street and 6th Avenue North. And there, some of those original old buildings are still there. And we need to commemorate them, and we need to honor them, because they had the guts to stand up and take on the fight. To fight for what we take for granted: health insurance, pensions, holidays, vacations. That never would have happened unless we had people like that had the power and the strength to make it happen. They had the fortitude. Minneapolis was known as a very anti-union town, one of the most anti-union in the country in 1934. And the Citizens Alliance, which is the group that was put together by the employers, not unlike in today's money, a little different, the Koch brothers and people like that want to do anything they can to destroy labor so that more wealth can go into their pockets and less into the pockets of the workers who made it. And it was just amazing. All of a sudden, all of these people were out there, and they had a mission, and they were not going to back down. We knew it was going to be they knew it was going to be a violent strike at some point. The governor, Floyd B. Olson, at the time, brought out the National Guard. He felt compelled to do that. The Minneapolis police were there. But the goons that they hired, the strikebreakers, if you ever see any pictures out there where them bats are swinging, that's what the strikebreakers try to do. They try to break the back of our people out there and get them to run and hide. We only got stronger. We fought back. We fought back, and we fought back in the right way to win. And I am so happy that that happened, and they taught us so much. And they worked so hard to get it done. And the Citizens Alliance that told everybody that Minneapolis is going to forever be a non-union town would turn over in their grave, because it's one of the best union towns in the country because of what they did. And we lost 2 brothers in that fight who were shot, Henry Ness and John Ballore. Both of them were killed on the same day. I guess that day is tomorrow already. We had a bloody Friday where all hell broke loose, and they were attacked by the strikebreakers and the National Guard, and they were firing their guns. But they stood their ground, and they held it out. And it's hard to imagine today some of our people having to go through that and do that. They fought that battle. And I can't say enough about what they did. And I'm not sure about FDR's role in this. He was part of the involvement with the strike because it had gotten so much national attention, about how the Teamsters were winning the strike in Minneapolis, this big non-union town. And that spread across the country like wildfire. And the Teamsters Union grew dramatically from that point on through the rest of the 30s and the 40s and the 50s. There's no question about it. And they came and they fought for what was right, and that's dignity in the workplace. And the women too, the sisters, the brothers, the sisters, the mothers, the grandmothers, they came and they had an infirmary because there was a lot of people that got hurt. Hundreds were hurt in that strike. And so they had an infirmary where they would take care of the wounded in a soup line. And this was also organized by the famous Dunn brothers, who were something super special. And I think, if you think about it, we should never ever take for granted the benefits that we have under a Teamster contract. Health insurance, pension, all the wages that we worked so hard to get. Health and vacations, holidays, all of the things that they dreamed of in their lifetime. They had nothing to lose, and they were willing to put their life on the line to win for themselves, but for future generations. And I, as a young man, 17 years old in June of that year, 1959, yeah, I know, that's pretty old. I'm still here. I plan on being here for a while. But I had the opportunity to meet some of them because they were at the end of their career. They were 25 years away from that historic event. And they were very proud of their union, and they cared about working people in this country. And I'll never forget one of my stewards, Norm Botterill. He said, son, just remember one thing. Don't ever forget where you come from, and don't ever forget where you're going. And by God, because you're a union member, you got what you got, and you need to do that for other people as well.
Woo!
I never forgot that, and I've lived by that credo my whole life. And I tell you what, you're going to have to do it again, you out here and the youngsters coming up. We have this war on workers. It's going on. When we see what happened in Wisconsin and Kentucky and these kind of people, we know exactly what they want. They want to take everything away from the middle class and put it in their pockets. And we have such a distribution of wealth in this country, it's scary. But history has a way of repeating itself. History has a way of coming back and saying the same thing again. Because what's happening today is about 2% of the Americans in this country control over 50% of the wealth. And I'm talking about the Koch brothers, and I have a few other names for them as well, that will do anything to spend whatever it'll take to break unions so they can put more money in their damn pocket. And that's all what it's all about. And they want to control this country from the top and not from the bottom where we come from with the people who make it work. And we have to get out there and work in every election coming up harder than you've ever worked before, because if they get a chance to take the Senate, you're going to see national right to work in this country and worse. So we can't let that happen. We have to fight back. And meeting those guys is something that it's hard to explain, and it's something I'll never forget. They didn't brag a lot. They were pretty proud of the fact that the citizens of Lance got their ass kicked based on what they used to do, and they did do that. They were terrible. They were happy about the fact that some of them were going to get a pension. They had health insurance. They never dreamed that would ever happen to them. But it happened to them, but it happened to us too. And they loved their union. They used to fight amongst each other and argue about this, and I was on that corner and you were on that corner. But if you said a bad word about a Teamster, they'd knock you on your ass and be happy they did it, because they were proud of what they, as Teamsters, brothers and sisters, accomplished. And they did it not only for Teamsters, but for labor across this great country. And when you talk about wealth in this country and distribution, the bottom 60%, today, that's how much it's grown, control less than 5% of the wealth. And many studies say it's 2% of the wealth. And you think they're going to stay satisfied for very long? You know, we've seen a little bit of Occupy America. We've seen a little bit of, McDonald's and Walmart's and all these great companies that make profits off of these people's backs and paying them cheap wages. That's not going to go away. And it's going to escalate, and we have to be ready. We have to get militant. They were militant. They were not afraid of the fight. They knew what the repercussions could be. We don't have a choice. If we want something better for our children to filter down through our grandchildren, then you got to step forward. You got to be a player. Woo! And brothers and sisters, I love this great country just like all of you do out there. It's been a wonderful country. It's taken good care of many of us, but it's hurt a lot of people as well. We shouldn't have millions of people without health insurance, or children can't receive a healthy breakfast in the morning so they don't go hungry all day. Something wrong with that scenario when we can pour money into 2 wars that they never even paid for, but we can't take care of our own. We need to change that. And I'm here to tell you that history will repeat itself. That someday the bottom 60% is going to gather with the rest and say, we've had enough. It's time to take the bull by the horns and take what's rightfully ours. When we provide our labor, we want to be paid for it. And I think you're going to see that in the future because it's getting closer and closer. Today, most of you are protected by a good union contract. And you haven't maybe seen that side of it all the time, but I know you have family and friends that have gone through that. And we need to make sure that we understand that when that comes, we're going to do whatever it takes. I believe in civil disobedience, peaceful civil disobedience. And if they want to arrest my ass, that's been done to me a couple times before. I know how to handle that. But I'm going to fight for my brothers and sisters. Well, I know one thing, and I've seen a lot in my lifetime. I've seen a lot of changes, good and bad. Mostly good because you have to make it good, and you can do that. And you have to believe in what you're doing is the right thing for our brothers and sisters out there, because we are an organization that believes in brotherhood and sisterhood, and we'll continue to do that. But we got a lot of greedy ones out there. These CEOs are greedy. They want every single penny they can get out of your pocket in theirs. You think the Koch brothers and others like them that don't even want their names known don't mind spending billions of dollars that they stole from the workers? They'll do it to get what they want. You know, I'm sick and tired of these people. And the conservatives and the Republican Party and the Tea Party. You know, I'm sorry, but you want to destroy unions. I want nothing to do with you. We used to support some Republicans, and we still do. But by God, when they take the position that unions don't belong, and they strip bargaining like that idiot in Wisconsin did, that's going to follow in other states. We can't accept that. We can't stand for it. We need to elect politicians that are going to take care of working people. And I know I say a few things at the end of my speech, and I'm just so proud of what the 1934 strikers did, because when I merged my local into my local 544 into 120, and we became a bigger, stronger local, there was a lot of history that went with that, and we've maintained that history. These people were something that very, very special that we can thank from the bottom of our hearts day in and day out. And I know we have some family members here today. I didn't know that at first. I believe 3 grandchildren, and I'm very happy about that. Henry Ness was a man that gave his life for other workers to do, and he wanted to do for himself, but he was not afraid to get in with the battle. And John Blount, he did the same thing, and they did things that most people wouldn't even think about doing. So I want to honor them. And my local was 544, came out of 574. It was 574 was split apart for political reasons, and that's another story, into a number of local unions in the late 30s and the 40s. But they were fantastic people who cared so much about this great union and really made this country a better place to live. And I know how I feel about these greedy CEOs and the Koch brothers, and how I feel about Rush Limbaugh, who bashes unions every single day that he can. You know what? We're going to win the war that they started. We're going to win the war because we are determined to win the war. And as far as I'm concerned, if they don't believe that, they can all kiss my ass. Yeah. And I hope to God I'm still here when we take back what we need to take back. Thank you very much. I'm glad you came.